And here we are once again in the virtual studio of lockdown, our bliss for the week. And we've got a slightly different idea for folks today, haven't we?
Yeah, today we're going to do, we're going to play our favourite solos to each other, but live. They've got to be live solos. So this is not recorded solo. These are live. We're going to pull these off of YouTube and we're going to play them to each other and just see what reaction each other have. You know, we've got some pretty interesting stuff, haven't we, Bob?
Absolutely. Well, I think it's quite various. Yeah, I think mine's a bit more predictable than yours, but we'll see where we go. We should be fun.
And it's going to be really interesting for me to get your reactions. I think to some of these, you know, because there's one thing I do like about you, Bob, is you shoot from the hip. Nearly said that wrong. That could have been.
I know what I like.
Yeah, you know what you like, but you always come with you're quite open-minded. This is one thing I do respect about you, Bob.
I don't tend to spend a lot of time on YouTube listening to people playing live.
Mm-hmm.
I kind of prefer to go to gigs. Only right now you can't go to gigs, but you know.
So let's get straight to, because the folks are going to be really wanting to hear. We're going to do your song, one of your choices first, and I'm going to listen to it. But could you just give me a little bit of info first, Bob, about this?
Well, I'm going to choose something that's completely iconic, and as soon as I say it, people will go, "Oh yeah, brilliant, obvious, but great." And it's Alvin Lee's performance with 10 Years After at Woodstock, which is without doubt the standout moment of the film. If you read the stories about it, he's playing in the middle of the night. Woodstock, by the time 10 Years After got on stage, was already turning into an implosion of a muddy hell on earth and all the rest of it. It was not turning into the 3 days of peace and love that was anticipated. So the musicians were having to work really hard dealing with quite fractious crowds. But nevertheless, I mean, this is just a bonkers performance by a band that was hardly known in America at the time. And were, you know, history hasn't been very kind to them. They've really ended up being a sort of 60s replica blues band with a couple of minor chart hits. But I mean, for me, they were a much better band than that, especially their early work. And he was one great guitarist. So I'm going to play you a bit of it now. I mean, from the get-go, it's just unbelievable.
This is a thing called I'm Going Home by Helicopter.
Okay, yeah, that was really because I remember listening to this. I remember seeing the Woodstock thing when I was like 17, and I remember watching that performance a couple of times on a VHS cassette, and I was always like, you know, this guy's just like, you know, the first thing is rhythmically it's really, really, you know, solid, very, very solid. He's you know, he's got it's almost like, you know, Jimmy Page. A kind of Jimmy Page-esque style. I know probably he's not.
Well, it's from the same era.
Yeah. It's that kind of really fast sort of, you know, a lot of these kind of like a a lot of that sort of stuff. But rhythmically, I think what impressed me at the time was it was very rhythmically solid. and very Chuck Berry. It was very much a Chuck Berry influenced. Is it, you know?
It's I think it's a really great example. You know, from the first note, I mean, you know that Elvis is in the building. Yeah, it starts off with complete commitment. It's too fast. It's a little scrappy, but this is a band that's obviously been playing 5 or 6 nights a week in clubs and pubs, you know, and maybe a few slightly larger venues for years. They're obviously very familiar with each other. He's completely familiar with his instrument and his voice and the toggling between the two. You know, it's just, it's a typical live performance of somebody who does live performance a lot.
Yes. Yes.
Back in that day, that's what bands used to do. They used to perform 6 nights a week, touring up and down in little minivans.
And interesting that he was playing that such iconic 335 with the kind of peace symbol. And he just really milked every single note from it. He just like completely, every single ounce sweat and just, you could see that was his whole world, was that guitar, you know.
When I was growing up, he was one of the hero guitar players. And so inevitably, you know, a lot of his playing seeped into my style.
Yeah. Right.
And I've been trying to get rid of it for years because actually he's quite repetitive and he plays a few riffs brilliantly, quite a lot. I have a story about him, which I'll throw in and you can decide if you want to use it. I was at the studio in central London, Dean Street Studios. It's a recording studio. It's pretty much the only central London recording studio left, actually. Right. And his daughter is the studio manager. And they'd had a refurb, they'd had a whole load of new stuff put in, and they were having a bit of a sort of reopening party. And it turns out that the guy who'd wired the place and the guy who'd installed all the new desks and everything were friends of mine. So I went along for the party and, you know, had a few curled up sandwiches and had a couple of glasses of cheap red wine. And there was a picture of Alvin on the wall of the studio. And I was talking to one of my mates and saying, oh, Christ, used to love this guy when I was a kid, growing up, blah, blah. And, you know, he's obviously picked up a lot of him in my playing. And I've been trying to get rid of it ever since. Not because I hate it, but just because I wanted to kind of move onwards and sideways and outwards. And the voice behind me said, that's very interesting. And it's Alvin Lee. So we had a good old chat, this and that. And then we went next door into one of the studios and played a couple of guitars together.
Incredible.
For a while. Lovely man. Lovely bloke. So and that wasn't long before, unfortunately, he passed away. But
oh, really? He passed away? That's sad.
Yeah. I mean, a few years back. Yeah.
So you played with your hero. You actually played with your hero. It's amazing. Yeah. Okay, so Bob, this next tune, this is a live solo. One of my favourite live solos, really of recent, probably my favourite solo of recent years. Mainly just because it's quite angular, it's quite different. It's got a bit of a George Harrison vibe to it, and really, he kind of, you know, you can tell that this is with Ben Folds 5, and it's Blake Mills kind of doing a one-off session with Ben Folds, who was has a residency at the Kennedy, you know, Center, where he was playing with the Kennedy Orchestra. So that's kind of to set up this solo, and so it's kind of like a James Bond-esque sort of song. And then you're going to hear Blake Mills come in with this.
Okay, let's have a listen. Right.
So wow. What's your reaction to that?
First word that comes to mind, horrible.
Mm-hmm.
It's first of all, there are either some very, very interesting notes or some very bum notes in it.
Mm-hmm.
And they're very prominent. Normally, when you play a bum note, you must play it again
Yeah.
And that means, oh, hang on, he meant to play that flattened fifth. Yeah. So just as a rule of thumb, whenever I play a bum note, and I do play quite a lot of bum notes, do it with commitment and play it again. And then you look as if you intended it when you didn't. That's the first thing. Now, the second thing, this is also an example of how electric and acoustic instruments do not mix well, right? I'm not saying they don't mix, but in this instance, you've got an orchestra and a piano and a voice, all of which are analog acoustic, and you've got a guitar, a Telecaster it looks like, very sharp, like Jimmy Page, right? Very sharp, through an amp at the front of the stage. And it's like an ice pick. So, okay, I don't like the tone. I don't like the note choice much. It's going really well.
No. That's what it's all about.
But having said that, to be fair, I listened to a bit of the preamble as well. And it's not really the kind of music I choose to listen to either. It's very bombastic, almost like a theatrical music show type orchestral score. It's very leaden and very thumping. It's very hard and heavy. And it's, you know, if I listen to classical music or orchestral music, I listen to chamber music. I don't really even listen to big sort of Wagner type orchestral music. So this is very 20th century, and that isn't really my bag. But it's interesting. I mean, I don't know.
Well, let me give you.
I was expecting something a bit more out there and a bit jazzier. Okay. Actually, I think for me, I would say rather than out there, which is usually funny notes, bit crazy, I'd say this was a bit of a fail. There you go.
No. I love it. For me,
let's move on so you can demolish something of mine.
Well, I just want to give you a bit. For me, this was when I heard this solo, because initially I was really interested in watching it because I like Ben Folds. They had a Cuban singer on there as well, which she did a great. It was a really, really nice concert. You can watch it all on YouTube, and it's funny because they actually edited Blake Mills' solo out on the official kind of video of that song. So, but for me, I just love that angular quality. I thought this beautiful sort of melody, and he's a risk taker. Like, so he kind of like, you know, you can pretty much tell he's playing with his fingers, and he's kind of doing something like this where he's just letting the strings flap, and it's almost like the solo collapses and then he brings it back in and ends on this beautiful atmospheric line and melody. And it was, you know, I guess you need to listen to the whole song, but for me that was one of the standout guitar solos of the last 3 years, just because it was different. He wasn't playing, you know, the same same licks as everyone else,
or the same old blues riffs as I peel off all the time. No, I agree. It's definitely not doing that. It's looking to be different.
But what I love about Blake Mills is he's able to step out of that framework and take a risk and play a note which somebody else might frown at, but he just goes with it, you know.
Yeah,
okay, let's move
right. You've actually got to be really, really good or really crazy to do that kind of thing. Because if you're not good, it's going to show. If you're crazy enough, you can get away with it. But you can't just be ordinary and average and go, oh, I'm going to play some lousy notes. It'll just sound like a dustbin kicking off.
And also, it just shows you how our ears are different, because when I hear that solo, for me, it's all in. It's all, there are no bad notes in that solo. Whereas for you, you're hearing some really out of tune notes. And that's
but remember, I mean, also, again, it's partly my vintage and partly the music that I like and the tones that I chase.
Yeah.
And I don't tend to spend a lot of time with very, very sharp, harsh sounding guitars. So, for example, you know that I love really early Telecasters, which you would think, oh, God, they're going to be like an ice pick. No, they're not. They're incredibly sweet and smooth. If you put them through the wrong amp, they can be really sharp. But
interestingly, that Telecaster was a 52.
Ah, right, okay.
Yeah. So.
Well, that's how sharp they can go.
I think
when I get my hands on that 52 Telecaster, I don't play it like that.
Like Jackson Brown, that was Jackson Brown's Telecaster, and he lent it to Blake Mills.
Okay.
Blake Mills was using that telly around that time. I think it was. It could be, maybe. It's
okay.
Not, I think it is. Okay, so let's move to your tune. What are you going to play to me, Bob? What am I going to do?
Right. The next one. This is it's a bootleg, recorded probably on a little portable cassette recorder in 1968 in Dallas. And this is Eric Clapton introducing Sitting on Top of the World, which was one of their big set piece songs. And the reason I've chosen it is, choosing Eric Clapton, conventional as hell. This is, for me, by some distance, the best recorded piece of Eric Clapton I've ever heard.
Okay, well, let me pull this one apart for you, Bob. Thanks for this, because I've never heard this before, so it's really great. So first of all, I want to geek out on you, and to me that sounds like he's playing one of these Les Pauls, I think he had a tobacco one or whatever. So it sounds like he was playing a Les Paul for this rather than Firebird, which is what he was touring with on that.
He didn't have a Les Paul on that tour.
He didn't. So was this a Firebird then?
And yeah, for my money, I've tried very hard to listen to this and try and get the sound. I think it's a Firebird through a Marshall. Okay. Absolutely dimed.
So from what I'm hearing here, this is a really for me, this is like the peak of his kind of blues breaker. The time that he discovered and the way of playing in the beginning of the Blues Breakers, and this is really the peak. This is kind of the end. This is the beginning of the end for him. It's kind of like he reached this peak. He couldn't go any higher, because in blues rock soloing, you cannot get better than that. That is it. The intensity which he keeps, he doesn't go over the top. It's kind of an intensity which he keeps to the end, and then he resolves it in a beautiful way. All the bendings in tune. The vibrato is just a masterpiece. The octave bends he's doing, it's just but it's the way he keeps that intensity is an art, because he doesn't lose it. He just keeps on that intense, and then he brings it down. And not many guitarists, they have a little bit of intensity, like a spike of intensity, but they can't keep it flowing. And that's one thing he's done in this solo, and it's really, there's no way you can do that without having his career, without playing with Jack Bruce and Ginger Baker every night. That material, with you just have, that is a result of his career up until that point.
A lot of the literature suggests that Cream were very often on the point as a band of exploding.
Yeah, of course, yeah.
And I think
there was a lot of internal. I mean, Ginger Baker was a crazy.
Absolutely. Band. So you got all that going on.
And also Eric Clapton's own sort of questioning of his own childhood, his upbringing. There was all of that. He wasn't he wasn't a
settled cove, was he?
But no, but that was his outlet.
There's another interesting thing about this as well. You mentioned that you're listening to a three-piece here, and obviously Clapton is taking the solo, and I've chosen it because for me it's the most exceptional piece of guitar playing Clapton's ever produced.
Yeah, but, I agree.
But listening to the band, the band are doing, Jack Bruce and Ginger Baker come from jazz roots.
Yeah.
And they're playing this kind of heavy plodding blues style, but with a lot of jazz sensibility. At several points in this, unless you're counting, you can actually go, where are we in the 12 bar?
Yeah.
You can actually get lost because they just drift out in the way that jazz musicians do, a long way from home.
But Clapton is keeping the chords. He's not playing arpeggios. He's playing within a blues framework, but he's he's still got the melody. You can still hear melody notes. He knows where he is.
Absolutely, he knows exactly where he is. And I just think so. So as a piece of Clapton, it's outstanding. As a piece of ensemble playing, I think it's pretty remarkable. And that's 1968. If you walked into a club today and you saw a band playing that, you'd put your drink down and you'd freeze to the spot. Yeah,
but this is the point. This was in 1968 when people really. I know you got Freddie King. Freddie King with a gold top through a Fender amp. Goosed. Goosed, as the Americans say, and that's all. That's one thing. But Freddie King maybe didn't have that sustain, and because he didn't have a Marshall amp and he didn't have a whatever. Clapton took that and took it to the limit.
Yeah,
he took it to the. You cannot get any better than that. That's as far as you can go with that style, I think.
Yeah.
That's it.
Yeah, that's why all us sad bastards. That's why we keep on trying to retrace those steps, because those steps are such giant steps. It's fantastic.
Yeah. And even Clapton, he said, "Okay, I've done that. I've reached the peak. I can't stay up there forever. I'm going to become Eric Clapton, the songwriter, playing the Strat." He went somewhere else. Yeah. Okay, so let's move on to our next song. This is a song for you. So this is an avant-garde kind of jazz ensemble. The groove is freaking amazing. The groove of this tune, and John Leary was a very cool cat. He's actually an artist now, but back in the day, he was a really, really kind of cool young dude playing avant-garde sax in the New York kind of scene, and so this is a band. And so Mark Rybert he's doing something. It's a pretty out there band. So check this out.
Okay, here we go. All right, so now you thought I wouldn't like this.
Yeah.
And I can see why.
Mm-hmm.
And there's plenty of things I could hook onto and say, yeah. But actually, I really do like it.
Oh.
I really do like it. I think what he's doing a fantastic job of is he's sitting right on the knife edge between fitting and not fitting. Mm-hmm. In a way, if you like, I found that Ben Folds the Ben Folds piece, Blake Mills, I just didn't think he fitted. I didn't think he fitted with the music, in the room, with the orchestra, anything.
Mm-hmm.
This he's sailing down the knife edge between fit and no fit on his bollocks, and he's succeeding.
I love that.
Wonderful. Man. I think when he goes up a semitone early in the solo, it's a little bit ham-fisted. I think the other thing is it's very interesting listening to him. He's playing a Telecaster style guitar, probably without any pedals, through a big Fender twin amp, which is leaning up behind him. And I get the impression from the sound he's getting that he's getting that thing you very often get when you play with a Fender twin. The strings suddenly feel very stiff and the guitar starts to resist you. And so playing lovely fluid legato, which is my thing, is completely out of the question. It's like, oh God, it's like pick, 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 horrible. And you can feel him wrestling against the guitar here, but he prevails.
Yeah,
he prevails, and I do love it.
I love that.
Also, I think he's giving these horn players, he's giving them a run for their money, because playing in a band with horn players is wonderful when they play behind you, but when they step out in front, you just disappear. So he's doing a good job. Okay, this one is again, some people might say quite a safe if more modern choice. This is Eric Johnson playing his famous Cliffs of Dover song live. When he plays the Cliffs of Dover, he usually spends about 3 or 4 minutes vamping around some very clean, ambient, echoey, spacey chords to introduce it and string it out to a song of some considerable length. And then he gets going eventually. The intro to this is wonderful, but it's very, very, very long.
Cool. Yeah, I love it. I mean, so my reaction to that is one of he's like I'm really into chess. I play a lot of chess, and you get the masters, the chess masters, and really he's a master. I mean, Joe Bonamassa here is a master. I mean, Eric Johnson is a master of guitar.
So, but tell me a question, because the one thing I love it technically, I think it's fantastic. The sound is great. I love the way he flips between flashy guitar playing and serious melody. But one thing I feel when I listen to him is I don't necessarily feel as if I'm being warmed up emotionally.
This is the thing with him. He's mastered. So you didn't pick up on my Joe Bonamassa joke there, did you?
What, the slip of the tongue? You mean?
Yeah, you didn't. It's like I was watching that and I was thinking, that's Joe Bonamassa. It's like
because I'm sure Joe Bonamassa models those pentatonic arpeggios, particularly the ones where he plays the first phrase twice and then flies down the neck.
Yes,
I bet he modelled them on Eric Johnson because it's too close.
Absolutely. So what I think is this: he's got like 5 styles of guitar playing. The hybrid picking where he's holding the plectrum fingers, and the cleans thing he does, and he's worked all this out with the amps and his effects, and he's just mastered it. But it's almost like as if you're saying he's going through the motions. He's kind of lost that. Mark Ribot is totally he doesn't know what the hell's going to happen. Whereas Eric Johnson knows exactly what's going to happen. Yeah. Even to the point where you saw him doing the intro, and then he brings in the song faster. He brings in, so he even knows what tempo his song should be at. He's that way. He's so in sync with this. But like you said, because he's mastered these different facets of his playing so well, he's maybe taken a little bit of chance, a little bit of the live element that you need sometimes.
I went to see him when he played. The venue just off Leicester Square, I think the Prince Charles Cinema, about 5 or 6 years ago.
Yeah.
He doesn't often come over to the UK. I went to see him. And inevitably, the room is just full of guitar players. Yeah. All the rest of it, meet all your mates, that kind of thing.
A few unlucky victims.
It was pretty boring, actually. And he had all his gear. He had 2 Marshall stacks. He had the Fender Twins for his clean sound. He had all his pedals and everything. He travelled heavy. Yeah. Which for a musician is expensive. So most of his profit was eaten up in shipping. But, and it was, for the first few minutes, and every time he launched into one of those solos, it was exquisite. But as an evening's performance, it was pretty...
I mean, I'd say this, I'd say he's a master of the guitar. He has mastered his style. And the fuzz, he can use a fuzz better than anybody. When he uses that fuzz, it sounds incredible. Nobody can use a fuzz as good as Eric Johnson, But saying that, I like the risk takers. And I know that it's played by accident, and then you have to play it again, so you pretend you meant it. I like the mistakes. I like it. Is he going to make it? Is he going to make it? Oh, he's made it. Or she made it. And so that's what I really like. And that, for me, you just know he's not going to make a mistake. You know that it's so well rehearsed. It's so perfect. I mean, and that's the beauty of it. The beauty is seeing so beautifully executed. And I'm going to put this up for everyone now. This is for me, this is Ry Cooder at his peak.
magnificent, absolutely magnificent. I mean, it's live and it's got some fluffs in it and stuff, but it's just so something that Bonnie Raitt told me.
Really? Here we go.
Never quite, when you're playing slide, never quite get to that note, son.
That's it. That's it.
And he's doing it. He's sliding up, and you think, "Are we gonna?" And you're just waiting and waiting. Oh, and sometimes he hits it for you, but that seems to be what the master slides do.
Like, you know, Sting. If you listen to Sting in The Police, he was the same. It was like,
okay, it's a great trick. It's a great trick, and nobody does it better than Ry Cooder. It's beautiful. Beautiful and so melodic. Also, on this video, I just love the way you've got the little wooden squeeze box player standing next to him, clearly just admiring the musicianship adjacent to him. It's a wonderful, wonderful clip.
I mean, for me, it conveys the emotion of the song, and I think that's what a solo needs to do, Bob. Is convey, and this is where I come back to the first one of, you know, Eric. You played me Eric Clapton. It conveys the emotion of the song. It's an extension of whatever the song's trying to convey. That's what the solo should really be doing. Do you agree?
Yeah. Again, however, it's unusual. I mean, I think a close second best is there are quite a lot of solos, which they exist within the song as almost their own little pieces.
Yeah, I'm not going to name any names here, but there's a certain. I don't want to slag anybody off, you know, but there's a few players that it's like every song they do, they're bringing their ego with them, and they do it playing the same solo every time. So they're not adaptable. They're not playing for the song. It's all about their ego and showing off their abilities. You know.
Well, in my case, my one riff. Yes.
Well, you know, but. Well, no, we're not speaking about you, Bob. I've heard you play some really nice melodic stuff, you know. But I'm just saying there are some cats out there.
Yeah, you're right.
You're right. Think they've got to be this kind of bull in a china shop coming in. I'm the big man. Check me out. Look, my licks are on fire. It's like, yeah, we know you're good. We know you're good. Now play for the song, please.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
We know you're good. We heard you last week.
Actually, again, I have a. I'll be pulling out in future. I've got one fantastic example of where I think all those different points of conflict actually meet. There's an enormous amount of talent, an enormous amount of in the song, and probably a fair amount of listen to me, all going on in the same space on one of the things that I'm going to pick for round two. But for now, let's stick with round one.
Okay, so we're gonna end this. We're gonna end this session on, because we had one extra song that I picked, and we're going to end with this, so we don't have to.
Bonus song.
But we love this. This is Robben Ford playing "Ain't Got Nothing But the Blues."
Oh.
And this is really another textbook. This is a textbook in feel, sophistication, in harmony, in just taste, in touch, and tone, and just everything. This guy has just managed to magic.
Outstanding.
Yeah. So guys, it's been really good fun. We're going to leave you with Robben Ford playing us out. God bless you all, and take care.
Bye.
From my good friend.
And from my good friend.
Thank you.